Mozza sent this R3 for review. I find these very small direct drive wheelbase bundles incredibly interesting, as they are trying to do now what the Logitech G wheel systems have done for many years. They give a ready-to-roll experience that serves lots of use cases with console compatibility, in this case the Xbox. I also have an affiliate link with Mozza, by the way. All opinions are my own, like always. Now, this review will be somewhat incomplete because I don't have an Xbox to try the R3 on, but we can get a pretty good idea on it. The R3 bundle competes directly with the Trustmaster TX Leather in terms of prices and compatibility, give or take a few things. The R3 bundle is £399, 439 euros or $450, depending on area, time of year, and tax, discounts and whatnot. You get quite a lot for it, to be fair. Inside the box there's the ES wheel, the R3 wheelbase with 3.9 Nm of torque, a set of SRP light pedals, a 72 watt power supply and a clamp, and also all the bits and bobs to install everything. Mozza also sent the SRP performance mod and a clutch, but since I'm not using a shifter nor a handbrake for this video, we'll be just testing the base equipment and the pedal mod. The box size for what it has inside is fairly compact and everything is well packaged in an egg box type carton. It's nothing to write home about, it does its job, just like this channel, so subscribe. Let's start with the clamp. I generally have some sort of quality control issues with Mozza in every package. This time was no exception, but fortunately it was with the desk clamp where the tightening knobs wouldn't thread through the screw hole. I don't have a dirty mind, by the way. Fortunately, it wasn't a big deal as I had a pair of extra ones from a Fanatec clamp. I never heard about this issue before, so I'm willing to not hold this against the bundle. The clamp is absolutely solid and is capable to fix the R3 with a smaller fixing pattern, also the R9 and R12, and honestly it can also clamp the Fanatec wheelbases as they share the same pattern, and I much prefer this one over the Fanatec ones. It's a small clamp, it's well built, and it has also some padding. The SRP light pedals are in my opinion the weakest link of the pack, as it is in these cases. It's not a bad pedal set, it is minimalist, super Spartan, it has one job and does that job well enough. The construction is stamped steel, reminiscent of the Fanatec CSL, but with some notches for future upgrades. The pedals are Hall sensors all around, that includes the brake with very light pressures. The regular SRP brake pedals are Hall and load cell, the lights are not. Anyways, this means they also were meant to be used on the floor and for driving on a desk. The SRP light brake performance kit adds a preload spring and an elastomer somewhat reminiscent of the 3PM pedals from Trustmaster, but much more evolved and well built. It's also really easy to install, and to connect to the wheelbase it is done via an RJ cable. As for the wheel, it is mostly positive. The wheel is 280mm, which I think is the right size for a bundle of this type. I like the design, and by the way, it can be transformed into a formula wheel with a mod that Mozza sells. There's a total of 18 buttons, one 4-way direction D-pad, and some shifters, all in Xbox pattern. The buttons are actually pretty nice, a bit on a light press, but somewhat padded. The shifters are just serviceable, they shift, but I don't like the experience with them. Construction wise, the wheel is actually pretty good materials chosen, and I like the wheel's rubber. Buttons are in an ergonomic position, and there's also a rev light, and of course, it uses Mozza excellent quick release. Lastly, for the wheelbase, I was kind of shocked that it is this small. The R12, it is tiny, but this one is next level small. The Camus C5 is smaller, but there is a different concept here. I don't expect that you will have an issue fitting this anywhere, desk or sim rig. The mounting pattern is a smaller type, so most sim rigs may not have the holes for it, but you can always use the desk clamp because it tights really tight and it works pretty much with any wheel. The top of the wheelbase has 2 holes for the DDU they offer, which I don't recommend. And in terms of construction, it's made of aluminum with a plastic back. The back has a printer type USB and connections to the pedals and other peripherals. There's also the power connector and a power button. As the Mozza R3 doesn't have an indicator, to tell what's going up in terms of the quick release install. To make it easier, just remember when the gold connectors are pointing right, it's where you connect your wheel. Mozza uses Pithouse to set up the wheelbase. It's an all-in-one software that covers everything it needs to be done on the wheel, firmware updates, changes settings, and all of that. Now, this is a pretty decent system with many options to change wheel settings, and Mozza also offers a smartphone app to change settings on the fly, even on the Xbox. This is the most important part of the video, and in terms of performance, the R3 doesn't really shine, and sometimes it disappoints. Of course, everything needs to be put in context. As a small form factor direct drive bundle, for an entry-level market, the performance is as expected, and at times actually better than that. However, there are a few bigger issues with it. First of all, in terms of power, the 3.9 meters can be enough for most beginner drivers. In a world where there are more powerful wheelbases, this of course will be feeling lacking, but once again, context. This is a challenge to the G920 and the Thrustmaster TX. In that case, it just feels leagues ahead and above those in terms of performance, smoothness, capability, construction, software, and even equipment inside the bundle. Every single piece of equipment will just feel better, and I found it also performs better, but in terms of compatibility, that is really not the case. The force feedback is capable and communicative, even at times a bit dampened. In Assetto Corsa, the R3 performed really well, as it did in Assetto Corsa Competizione. In this title, I was actually positively surprised. It has good force feedback and it's informative, it didn't feel laggy, and it held really well on the desk lamp when using it on a desk. So for desk racers, this may be something to look at, especially if you want to do some no hesi. I liked the ES wheel quite a lot. It is very ergonomic and light enough that the R3 didn't have any issues giving torque to it. The buttons are well spaced, it is comfortable, the shifters could be better, just like I said, and for this wheelbase I actually tried to use my old GS V1 wheel with it, but unfortunately it is not compatible with the R3. The V2 GS it is, but it's a bit sad because I really wanted to try this wheel with it. The pedals aren't really the best, but they serve the function well, and we have to remember this is all about context. Without the performance kit, they can be used on the floor, but with the kit, they need to be used with, at the very least, a wheel stand. The kit stiffens up the movement just enough to make it unusable without support. I found the kit on the softer side, but I think the spring and rubber compound are actually well chosen. With the softer ability of changing pedal curves, there's a good synergy there to better align the pedal rates with something more to your taste. Starting with the throttle pedal, it is incredibly light, but it is okay. Once again, it is supposed to be used on the floor. For the brake pedal, I found it incredibly linear without the performance kit. It works nicely enough. It does what pretty much all pedals of these types do. With the performance kit, it performs a little bit better, gives a better resistance as you press it. As a budget pedal set that comes in the bundle, it's better than the T3PAs or T3PMs from Thrustmaster or the Logitech G wheel pedals. Now, the big surprise was the lackluster Forza experience. This wasn't something I was expecting. First of all, to make it compatible or run somewhat well, it needs to go to an experimental mode, otherwise there's no force feedback. But even so, after a few corners or a few laps, it randomly loses force feedback in this title. This is incredibly surprising because Forza at launch was compatible with Ace Attack with no problems whatsoever, and the experience was actually really decent. This is independent of the firmware or software version I installed. Unfortunately, I don't have the Xbox to try out and check if there's more to this, but Overtake.gg has a more in-depth review on the Xbox compatibility. So, for conclusions, the R3 bundle does its job well enough, the price is right, it has plenty to give, the force feedback is serviceable, it is actually good enough for most cases, it has good detail and it's not too strong, which will serve a lot of people using it on the desk. The pedals are okay, it has a specific target group and it goes all in on them. I think that most will be desiring a little more power, especially when using heavier wheels that Mozza sells. But to be fair, the parts do the job really well, and as a bundle, it's together that they work their best. However, it must be said that there are better deals out there for similar or better performance with almost the same features. If you don't need the Xbox compatibility, the R5 bundle may be a better solution for you. It gives you a little more torque. Or if you need the Xbox compatibility, there's Fanatec Ready to Race bundle that can be upgraded to 8 Newton meters, though the QR1 tends to be mounted to these wheelbases is not as good as the Mozza one, and also Fanatec is on shaky grounds right now. Still, in my opinion, the force feedback of the Fanatec wheelbases is better, and its game compatibility is also deeper in the PC and in each console they are supported with. That ends up being kind of the issue with the R3. It's touted as the Xbox wheel from Mozza. The Xbox compatibility seems not to be the best, and even with PC titles like Forza, the experience could be much better. For what it is though, which is a bundle to make you forget about Thrustmaster TX wheelbases or Logitech G wheels, it's actually pretty good. It may not make you forget about Fanatec though, even with all its problems.